What is up guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and today I'm going to have my volume reviews for volume 16 and 15 of My Hero Academia, kind of getting into the beginning of the overall arc and getting into the thick of it in volume 16, with two fantastic covers here by Horikoshi as usual throughout the series. So I'll just get straight into the reviews, starting off with volume 15 here. This is kind of setting up the characters that will be prominent and the mini storylines that kind of will be important throughout the arc here at the beginning, just before the major fight of the arc itself. I think that Horikoshi takes the right amount of time in just around the volume to set up everything that he needs to before the fight. I think that it's always good when the mangaka kind of, instead of jumping from one arc's major fight straight into another, sets up little things to make you kind of be more interested and invested in the arc itself. And obviously Horikoshi's not the first person to do this, but I think he handles it very well. I think he takes the right amount of time to build up for this big fight, and I think it's especially evident here in this overall arc, with Overhaul and his crew kind of being introduced in volume 14 and having their interaction with Shigaraki, but us not knowing too much about it, and then them kind of ending with our main character facing off against Overhaul but not actually fighting him. I think it's handled really well. I think that's something that's quite interesting and well done by Horikoshi. And like I said, I like the way that he takes a good amount of time to set up stuff that he thinks will be important in this arc. So that's kind of what this volume 15 is doing. It kind of starts off with obviously the where volume 14 picks up. And what I like about this is, I like to see that, firstly, Deku's wearing his mask for the first time in the series. He's got his mask up, and I think that looks really cool. But also I like his progression here. I think that Deku from earlier on in the series would have just jumped straight into the fray there and probably fought Overhaul just right there, but he's kind of learning more just by being on the job and hearing stuff from Mirio and Night Eye, what it means to be a pro hero, how you should approach certain situations. And I think he's learning from Mirio, who's been at the agency for a longer amount of time, kind of how you're representing your agency, and the way that Night Eye would approach a situation should be the way that his students do, just so it's clear that you're representing that quality of hero and that caliber, and obviously to not endanger yourself as a potential hero or endanger the reputation of Night Eye's agency just by putting more people in danger by having a fight like in the middle of the street to save one person. You kind of have to think about it and plan the situation and how you're going to approach it. I think that Deku does well to kind of suppress his willingness to always help people in order to make sure that they have a good plan, and that's obviously progression from him. And you can kind of see how the more people that he knows and learns from, the better he becomes as a hero. And obviously in the future, him becoming the pro hero, I think he'll have a lot of different influences throughout the series that help him reach that goal, other than the ones we've already met. And you can already kind of see that happening with new characters like Mirio and Night Eye. And obviously something I've already praised my hero for in the past is the Great Conversations, and that is the same. Let me just find it here. That is the same here. I mean, the conversation that All Might and Deku have here is fantastic. I think it's just really emotional and heartbreaking about All Might's death that Night Eye foretold basically, and saw with his quirk. And I kind of like how Deku he's not allowing it to happen. He'll change fate by himself. And obviously I think that having Night Eye introduced now adds another dimension to All Might's character. Now that his quirk's gone, kind of makes him a bit more of an interesting character. Obviously he doesn't feature much in this arc, considering he can't fight, but he just kind of adds a lot more weight to stuff that happens later on in the arc, because All Might kind of hasn't seen Night Eye for a very long time and doesn't really see him until the very end of this arc. So I think that's pretty cool, and the way they introduce that now and how it kind of comes full circle at the end of the arc is nice, and it's a satisfying little end there. Other than that, you learn the quirks of the big three from, obviously we know Mirrors already, but you learn the quirks of the other two of the big three from UA, and also the quirks of the agency's leaders that they work for. like Fat Gum here, and I can't remember the name of the other one. This one on the back here, I can't remember her name, but that's obviously interesting and something that I think it's a good job to have been set up before the arc, so you're not kind of focused on what their quirks are doing during the fighting itself. Also, the interaction between Shigaraki and Overhaul's quite cool. I like how, even though they're two villains and they're kind of not aiming for the same goals, but they're seen as the same by everyone in society just because they're villainous, but they have such like a certain attitude towards each other where they don't trust each other at all in any way. It's just interesting to see, and I really do like Shigaraki's involvement in this arc, and I'll talk about that more in the next two volume reviews because that's when he's more prominent. But the way that the League of Villains plays out in this arc, I think is probably my favourite part of the arc itself. The way they were implemented into the arc is just really good. And how I feel about the arc as a whole, I think if you want a lot more of 1A as a class, you're not really going to get that from this arc. There's only 4 students from the class, being Kirishima, Uraraka, Asui, and Deku. And that's it from 1A, so you're not going to be getting a lot of that. But what it does offer is a few new characters, a new villain, and I think that if you're just looking for something completely brand new in the My Hero series, this will definitely be that, because it's a very unique arc, and even the way it's handled with some of Overhaul's men taking one group of our heroes out and fighting. I don't know, it's just something different that you don't usually see in the arcs in My Hero. So I think that definitely offers up something unique in the series, and I think Horikoshi does a good job with that. And it's definitely a plot progressing and very important arc to the series as a whole. So I don't really want it to be rushed in the anime. And obviously there are a few things that I'll change here and there. Like for example, maybe not having Uraraka join the agency, and maybe another one of the female characters like Mina or Hagakure. Maybe I'd prefer one of those two just because they don't really have as much importance in the series yet, and I think that would have been a good choice maybe to put one of those in, because I just think it would have been better in my opinion. But this volume as a whole, not too much to talk about. It's just classic My Hero and good volume. Like I said, offers up a bit of some new stuff basically. Now into volume 16. This is where you get kind of into the main quite long fight of the series. So Uraraka and Asui's agency kind of gets taken out first, and they're fighting someone outside. And I think that maybe my own problem with this arc is I kind of wish they showed a bit more of that, because it's neglected a bit. I don't think that Horikoshi focuses a lot, or basically at all, until right at the end on Uraraka and Asui, and I just don't really see the point of implementing them into the arc if you're not gonna focus on them at all. Like Red Briar gets basically his own volume here, with a lot of this being about him. And I kind of wish they got a bit of that treatment with just at least a little bit of their characters being shown a bit more in the arc. But I do like the way it's handled, where they're kind of going through, trying to figure out where Eri is. I think that's handled well, but like I said, that's just my one little nitpick with this volume. I also like how, I'm not really sure I'd say that, I think it's Tamaki, I'll just say his first name, I think that's easy to pronounce. He gets a little bit of progression here, and I like the way he uses his quirk in this fight. I think it's done really well. Yeah, because it's kind of a strange quirk, and I think that obviously Horikoshi purposely put him against someone who's his quirk would be useful against. So I do like the way he's using this volume. I think he's used a bit more sparingly than some of the other characters, but he's still quite cool. And then obviously you get a lot of what this volume is about, and that's Red Riot or Kirishima. And I do like the way that Horikoshi's implemented Kirishima into this arc. I think that he's probably the best hero character, aside from maybe Mirio, in this arc. I think that he's really well handled. I like the way his backstory is implemented into the fight. You learn a lot more about who he was before before UA, and that's not something you see often. And his backstory genuinely did surprise me. Not a lot of stuff in shonen manga or anime is that surprising. It's kind of predictable, but I think Horikoshi does a good job of breaking that mold and doing stuff that's different. I think one of those is definitely through his character progression of a lot of smaller characters, and I do like the way that Mina Shido was linked into his backstory. I think that's quite cool, and that offers up like a future friendship and relationship between them, if that was to be. But mostly focusing on his backstory was really cool, and how he wants to be better and stronger. And obviously that's not something completely unique to the hero idea, but I like the way that he's changed and what's happened to him, and you get reasoning behind him always kind of acting the way he is and how he behaves. And I think that his backstory being put into that fight was quite cool. For the fight for itself, I think it was just alright. I mean, I don't think anything in this overarch until right at the end is spectacular. I did like right at the end here with Fat Gum saving him, and I think that was quite cool. You could see him push to his breaking point and his limit. I do think that the way that was handled was cool. But the fight itself, I usually praise Horikoshi for his coherent fights and how everything's really clear. I don't think that it's like that in this arc as much. I think that a few of the things are a bit difficult to understand, and that's something that I hope Horikoshi doesn't go into later in the series. I hope that his fights stay as coherent as they were earlier on in the series, like for example that Todoroki Deku fight or All for One, which were two fights were really clear, and through his drawings and ink work was fantastically done. And I kind of hope, because he loses that a bit at times through this arc, it doesn't happen a lot more in the future fights. But for these two volumes as a whole, I would give them a 3 and a 4, so a 7 out of 10. I think that's a good enough score. I don't think they're fantastic. I think they're just good My Hero volumes in the grand scale of the series, and I think that the overall definitely picks up in 17 and 18, which conclude the arc as a whole. So that's just, well, I think those are the two volumes where I have a lot more to talk about with the arc as a whole, because it concludes a lot of things and wraps up a lot of important stuff in the storyline. But with these two volumes kind of being middle points for the arc and setting up the arc itself, did a really good job of doing that, and definitely help you to feel a lot more emotion throughout the arc itself. So that's quite cool. Other than that, I think that's all I really need to say about the volumes. So have a great day, and peace.